Martin Luther King Jr., Rosa Parks, Malcolm X, all, of course, household names known and respected around the world for their heroic contributions to this country's civil rights movement. But they were not the only ones who put their lives on the line in the struggle for racial justice during the 1960s. There were many other largely unknown men and women who risked everything to make the promise of this nation a reality. To commemorate those pivotal unsung heroes, WNYC and the Apollo Theater are teaming up for WNYC's 13th annual Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day celebration, titled appropriately enough, Unsung Champions of Civil Rights from MLK to Today. And joining us now with a preview of the celebration is one of the hosts of the event, WNYC's Brian Lehrer, and the associate producer of programming at the Apollo Theater, Laura Greer. Welcome, both of you. It's a pleasure to have you guys here.
You.
So, Brian, let me start with you. Who are some of the unsung heroes that you're going to be commemorating in this event?
Well, first I'll say that we're going to have some great guests to talk about some of the unsung heroes.
I want to ask you about that in a second.
My co-host Jamie Floyd and I will have some great historians like Janet Duarte-Bell and Alden, who both write about the people who are not the sort of famous, charismatic leaders, but that there was a lot of grassroots activism that was town by town, city by city around the South, not just the national movement. Alden Harris writes a lot about that. And people like Ella Baker, Bayard Rustin. Ella Baker is an amazing example. She was born around the turn of the 20th century, so she preceded King. She had worked with W.E.B. Du Bois and then with King. She was very determined to make sure that it was not just national famous men who were getting recognized for the work, but people on the ground in communities all over the country.
And Bayard Rustin is another person that you're going to be commemorating in this event. And I know a little bit about him. In fact, I remember I was telling you, Laura, that I saw him in the corner of 57th and Broadway one time in a public telephone. And I mean, he's a tall, handsome man with Frederick Douglass hair. Talk a little bit about him and his role.
And also somebody who preceded King.
Yeah.
He was organizing a big march on Washington in the 1940s for civil rights. And then he became one of the lead organizers of the famous 1963 March on Washington that we associate with Dr. King. So he's relatively unsung. Certainly people in the movement knew him really well, but he didn't become an icon of history in the same way. He was also gay.
Right.
And
that's why he took a back seat in many respects, because at that time it was a problem, right?
Right.
And Laura, you told me as we were preparing for this that some of these people, and this is part of the reason for this celebration, some of these people you were learning about more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think the other person that we are going to focus on is Fred Hampton.
Yeah.
I don't know yes, he's Black Panther, and I don't know a lot about Mr. Hampton. So I think what is great about this event for so many of us is to learn more and more about the people who really so instrumental in the civil rights movement, and as we said, unsung heroes. And that was such an important part of when we were putting this program together, to really think about how to, identifying who those folks are. And I think that is one of the highlights of this event at the Apollo, is that you really have an opportunity to take a deeper dive on.
Are you going to talk about some
topics.
Unsung heroes? I think from the title, I can only guess that are working now, in the movement.
We are, and I don't have particular names along those lines, but every year in our Dr. King celebration, we talk about some history and we relate it to what's going on today.
Yeah.
So there definitely will be people working today, and we'll be talking about people working today.
So Laura, Brian kind of touched on this, the way that you were going to commemorate these unsung heroes. Elaborate on that.
So we look at kind of what are the areas that we want to be able to focus on. So obviously unsung heroes for this particular program. And then we really start to put some other pieces with the program. So we look at the music elements, particularly because it's at the Apollo. And this year we'll have Rutha Harris, who's she's in her 80s, and she was one of the freedom singers. And so there'll be a whole series of songs that she'll be able to provide and sing for us. And I think that we'll be joining her on a lot of those songs, like what is it? I forgot the name of the My Little Light? No, The Light of Mine.
This Little Light of Mine.
Thank you. This Little Light of Mine is one of those key songs. And then we will also have We'll have some other young poets that will be performing. We work with Urban Word. It's an organization here in New York that has amazing poets that will create some new work for us, and also it will be accompanied by some new music. And then I think one of the highlights, we didn't talk about the faith part, which is Bishop Michael Curry, who is Bishop Michael Curry. For most folks, you'll know him. He was the person who was part of the wedding ceremony of Prince Harry and
the royal wedding.
The royal wedding. Yes, yes.
It's so exciting that Bishop Curry is going to come.
I'm
That's
very
amazing.
thrilled about
And you have
that.
a very interesting photo exhibit as well, right?
There also will be a photo exhibition by the photos of Chester Higgins, who was definitely a New York icon with the New York Times, and so there will be an exhibition of his photos that will be screened, and those are photos that are part of the Birmingham Civil Rights Museum. So there's lots of elements to this program.
So you have been doing this for 13 years, but you've been partnering with the Apollo for the last 6. Talk about how did that partnership come together?
Well, we were at a smaller venue in the earlier part of the run. We were filling it up every time, and there was a lot of demand, and people at the station and people at the Apollo, maybe you know this better from your end about who actually initiated it, but like, this is the place where this has to be.
Right. If there's going to be an event like this, it's got to be at the Apollo. Right?
Yeah.
It's such an honor for me.
Yeah, it's terrific.
Yes, I think for the Apollo, your story is right. So there was just that connection of this was a perfect event to happen at the Apollo. It is for us under our banner, which we call Uptown Hall, and we have this program that we've been doing at the Apollo, and this is one of the events of our Uptown Hall, and it really looks at the Apollo as this gathering place to not only obviously to have great music, but also to have really interesting dialogue and discourse about important social issues of our day.
And I have to say, to brag a little bit, I've been at the Apollo and involved in some of those discussions
That's right.
over the last years.
That's right.
And it's a very diverse room year after year.
Yeah.
If one of the unfortunate things about society today is that we're all still so segregated, either by structures and systems or that we self-segregate into different kinds of events and things like that. It's always a very diverse room, and to have people mingling and talking to each other in the halls and everything like that. It's a wonderful thing.
And in 10 seconds, the event is open to everyone?
The event is open to everyone. It's free. People can go to our website, apollotheater.org, for more information on how to receive tickets.
All right. Well, both of you, thank you so much. It's been wonderful to talk to you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Efren.
And if you'd like to attend the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Celebration of the Apollo on January 20th, you can visit our website at metrofocus.org for details.